Second earthquake. The year that followed was the worst, as it was the year that M. also exploded in mid-air. The volcano had already been smoking for a few years and lava was smoldering under the mantle. As I had breastfed her until she was 4, we had a strong bond. She couldn't go to sleep without me being there. When she was 12, her consciousness jumped. The night before, she had gone to sleep as a sweet, cuddly little kitty, and in the morning, a tigress came out of the room. I was shocked to see her metamorphosis, not physical, but vibrational. She had leapt through time overnight. It was impressive. I didn't understand what quantum reality was at the time. Since she was 8 years old, and in view of the increasing difficulties she had in going to school, a friend of mine had convinced me to take her to see a psychologist to have her tested. Again, what a Sue trick I had to pull to get her into the car on a Saturday morning for a 3-hour session. What? You still want to put me in school on a Saturday morning, with a teacher? In short, 3 hours later, the result was in. M was, according to him, 3 years ahead of her time and had a higher IQ than normal. It didn't make much difference to know this. School was still compulsory, and as much as primary school had been boring for her, since she had been able to read since she was 4, secondary school was going to be a particularly tough challenge. The strict and conventional rules of a private Catholic school were the bitter potion that had to be swallowed with as much intramuros punishment as there were Saturdays or Wednesday mornings. As much as M was bubbly and curious as a child, I saw her fade away as the years went by. Instead, I saw an unconditional rebellion rising, which I would soon be unable to curb, terrorized by what I did not understand and which was beyond me. The circus had already begun at the end of the 4th grade. She had escaped with some girlfriends to go and meet a group of friends from the 3rd grade who were celebrating the end of their exams. Fortunately, we mothers had been warned and we had gathered together to chase them down and get them back. Seeing the bottles lying all over the floor, there was no doubt in what state they would be found. Unluckily, M was missing. Only her trainers and her t-shirt were lying on the water's edge. It was 1:01 a.m. The fire brigade eventually called the frogmen, who took 45 minutes to arrive. They started to search the river under the light of the floodlights. After 2 hours they told me, "Madam, go home. We'll let you know if we find anything." The next day they rang my doorbell. They had found her walking barefoot on the road. She then told me how she had hidden in a ditch and how the dogs had approached but not even smelled her, and how she had watched the scene all night from her hiding place. In the morning she had walked home and on the road found some cherries on a tree. She was furious that she had been picked up on the way. And I was even more angry at her recklessness and how she had disturbed so many people for nothing. But nothing seemed to affect her. She was armored on her planet. I was shocked by her attitude and her escapade, but I had no idea that this incident was just a minor aftershock of a major earthquake that would shake our lives a few months later. We moved to this new town. She was in the 9th grade at this new private school where I was also teaching. The majority of the students came from very chic and conservative aristocratic families, and the particle names filled up my roll call list at the letter D. Despite her angelic face, she had decided to make a pact with the devil, who was much more interesting to her, especially when he presented himself to her in the form of drug, alcohol, friends, freedom, and night out. It was rock and roll city, destroy trend, and tutti quanti. The more I tried to set rules, the more she would shatter them. I even remember how, when I locked the door, she would go out the window. I would spend hours arguing with her to try to reach an agreement. She would say yes to get peace, but then do the opposite. She made it clear that whatever I could say, she didn't care. Of course, all this was accompanied by beatings, violence, and insults. It was a time bomb that threatened to explode at any moment. The violence she had seen and experienced as a child was now the only possible language for expressing her rage and her dismay at life. Deeply sensitive, she had barricaded herself in violence as a bulwark against life. On the Saturday of the All Saints holiday, she told me, "I go to the library." "Okay, but please don't come back too late." No, no. I promise. Be there at 5:30. Okay. And leave your mobile open too. Yes, yes. 5:36. No one. I tried to call her but her phone was always on voicemail. When she wanted to be left alone, she always did the classic "I'm out of battery" trick. I went to the library. No one was there. I went home dejected. 8 p.m. 10 p.m. Midnight. I waited all night. I was numb. The next evening I went to the juvenile police. But they didn't care. They just told me she will come back. I kept waiting. 1 day, 2 days. A week. Every day I went to the office. But they didn't care. The second week, I asked to speak to the head of the juvenile brigade. He finally agreed to receive me. There I experienced a surreal scenario. I started to tell him my story. I expected to be heard and that he would take the situation seriously. I was normally in a place made for that, the juvenile brigade. Instead, the guy sat back in his chair, started to slowly ogle me from head to toe with an unmistakable eye and abruptly asked me, "What is your relationship with men?" I was speechless. My brain was racing. Who did he think I was and why did he ask me such a thing? Was it a trick to see if I was an easy girl? Was he hitting on me? Was I dreaming? Was it a trick to find out more, a way of preaching the false to know the true? I don't remember what I finally said, but he showed me the piles of files on his desk and said they were all for runaways. And he made it clear that my daughter's was far from being a priority, that she had just left, and she would be back by the end of the holidays. So I changed my tune and told him, "I'm warning you, she's 14 years old, if something happened to her and I warned you and you didn't do anything, I'll hold you personally responsible." He didn't like it. I had no choice but to keep waiting. The end of the holidays came, classes started again. Em still hadn't returned. In desperation I went to see a lawyer. At the meeting, she realized I had been made fun of, called the prosecutor and told me that the next day M's photo would be plastered all over the city. I went home relieved. Finally someone was taking this story seriously. Back home, I opened the door and saw a pair of trainers in the hallway. I must have stood there for at least a minute, dumbfounded, looking at the shoes before the information went to the brain. Em was there. She was on the sofa, looking like a disheveled bird. She had lost weight. I took her in my arms. We stayed for a long time without saying anything. I didn't dare speak. She told me, "I knew it was your birthday tomorrow." I went to a public toilet on purpose to do my hair. I didn't want to miss it. And then she uttered this terrible sentence I will never forget. "I learned more in 3 weeks than in 10 years of school." But how did you do? If I told you, you wouldn't sleep. It was even worse. I was angry with myself. I felt so responsible and incapable at the same time. Everyone goes through life, like a boat, according to the currents that carry it. Sometimes we are next to each other, thinking we are together. Then the wind picks up and a few whirlwinds carry one away. Others look on helplessly, and can only pray that the current calms down around her. I felt like this, helpless in my boat, and capsized by the shipwreck of this other person whom fate had placed there, next to me. These 3 weeks have broken many moorings inside and out, for her and for me. A few weeks later, just before the Christmas holidays, I was watching TV and there was an advert for a dating site. I giggled and laughed. PFFFFF, this stuff is really for losers. A week later, in the middle of a holiday, I was feeling so lonely and lost that I signed up. Ironically, Krishna is punishing our pride and arrogance by playing the trick of the sprinkler. He does not like it when we make fun of others. He does not like sour hearts. Very quickly, I was caught up in all these profiles. It was like an online supermarket, a kind of miraculous dating court. Not very engaging. Yet one profile catches my eye. The description, poetic, stands out. I intuitively scan the face in the photo and receive this information immediately, out of nowhere. Watch out. He was a priest in Egypt. He has a problem with power. Power of life, power of death. I should have stopped there and turned back, but no, my kamikaze tendency blew me away. Oh, I'll try it, just to see. So I go ahead and get an answer almost immediately. I felt something was happening. Very quickly, an appointment was made. At this meeting, Mr. wanted to conclude. I refused. He was very angry, frustrated. This should have alerted me. There was a kind of fascination that was not based on a physical attraction but on a highly toxic magnetism that would take me 13 years to dismantle. At another meeting, I told him, I would like 5 children with you. 1 will be enough. On April 14, 2006, a soul was deposited, caught in the nets. I would later discover this day was celebration of Lord Ramakandra's appearance day. A few weeks later, I came out of the bathroom, flabbergasted, with the test in my hand. I am pregnant. M was 16, I was 41. Mr. didn't want it. The blackmail began, or I go for an abortion or he would leave me. I remember this sentence from the gynecologist when I explained her my situation. Beware, it is always those who hang on the most afterwards. At the time, I didn't pick up on it, it was very far from my reality. For the moment, I was the one who was hanging on, and who was afraid of being abandoned. I was doing everything to keep him. Ah, if I had known, Srila Prabhupada had just told me. You will suffer a lot. But again, kamikaze and stubborn, I didn't listen. I even started to think that yes, it would be best to have an abortion. Under pressure, I started to tip over. I was scared. I was suffering. M was exhausting me with her fury for life. For me, this new situation seemed more like a good opportunity, a lifeline that I didn't want to let slip away. How delusion can make you mistake poison for sweetness and reject the best you have. Under pressure, I made an appointment at the hospital to have an abortion. There is an Indian proverb that says, if Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. But if Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you. I had an appointment on Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. The night before at midnight, the phone rang. It was L, a devout friend of mine who said, I felt I had to call you. I don't know why but I feel it's urgent. Are you okay? I was shocked. Nobody knew about my situation. What did she have to tell me that was so urgent? She tells me that V, another devotee, contacted her during the day, because she had a dream about me the night before. In her dream, she begged me on her knees and said, please don't do that. Please. Don't do that. She tells me she hesitated a lot before calling me, because she has no idea what it means. I knew. I told her everything. She told me. You see, Krishna has sent me to tell you this. He came to VS dream on purpose to save your baby. You can't have an abortion. I was overwhelmed, flabbergasted at how Krishna had acted. But I was also extremely disturbed by the emotional blackmail I was under. I still had a few hours to think. The next day I went to the appointment anyway. I sat in the waiting room like a condemned man on death row. I felt very bad, aware I was committing something irredeemable, which went far beyond a physical act. I was aware I was about to transgress a universal law that was totally at odds with life. My destiny was about to change beyond what I could conceive or imagine. I was aware in my soul that the game was not worth the candle and I was going to risk ruining all the graces and progress I had accumulated so far. I was lost. The doctor was late. He arrived in a hurry, but when I saw his face, I understood. He had a butcher's face, red, coarse, horrible. The crime was all over it. Horrified, I got up and ran away, crying. No, I couldn't. Whatever happens, no, I won't do that. S was born on January 10th, 2007 at 3:10 am. It took only 2 hours, but he couldn't get out. It was a close call before I was brought to the OR. He had the cord wrapped twice around his neck. He was all blue and his first moments were a low sigh of exhaustion, like sobs. I must say that I had cried all through my pregnancy, so toxic was the situation with Mr.